Hello and welcome to your Four Lads post-match reaction. I'm Andrew, joined by Andrew, and we're going to talk through, I think it's fair to say, Andrew, a fairly turgid game of football. You were obviously at the game. You've just come straight out of the press conferences. So let's get your reaction to those, first of all, if there are any exceptionally interesting points. And after that, we'll run through the game and, all the very many action points that we had from it.
Um, my immediate reaction post press conference is again I am another step past sold on Danny Rule. Um, the way he speaks, he offers a kind of assurance after what was a pretty tough watch. 3 points, which he also emphasised. He was also asked on the fact that apart from a Jack Butland save at Easter Road and another big Jack Butland save in the second half, that it could look slightly different, but he was quick to again heap praise on Jack himself, and I think that's well deserved. On the 90, he referenced making the comment on we need to sometimes have dirty wins, and he said that was probably a really good example of that. I think he's totally in the right there. It didn't have to be a brilliant performance. I said on the vlog, you don't get extra points for making it look good. Yeah, 3 points is a match you can get, and yeah, 3 points is what we got today. Yeah, it was a tremendously difficult way a game to be positive at. I know we get quite a lot of shouts about being positive on the show, but for post the first goal till the 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 Diamandi winner, it was quite a tough watch as a whole. But yeah, it was another game where it just shows where we are as a team, and then I think again it shows that Danny Rule is managing to get 3 points with the players at his disposal. That it's a wonder, in my opinion, that we've managed to get through the last few games undefeated in the league.
Yeah, I mean, I was saying this to my old man with Russell Martin previously in the manager. We would put in an equally bad performance, but we'd fail to win the game. The difference is we've actually won this game, by one way or another, and we certainly will address the points where it could have gone badly for us. But we did get the win in the end. In terms of managed reaction to the game, I know the players' sort of post-match interviews are typically less revealing, but were any nuggets of interest out there for us?
Obviously, the embargo of the main press conference, and I think post game will come out tomorrow. But Manny overall, delighted with his goal. I think in my opinion, as I can only speak in my opinion, he needed a goal like that. I think this opportunity is one that you know he's waited for. He hasn't had a great time since joining the club. And I think obviously barring his goal against Alloa in the cup, he's looked like a player that has faded into the background. One of a few, it has to be said. Danny Will spoke about Nadeem Bayrami as well. Obviously getting his first kind of chance under the new management team. But he's gonna, as we kind of spoke about on the gantry, it's we've not really got a choice in this matter. With Nasser, Manny, Clinton being on the bench, your options kind of run dry after that. So this opportunity has arisen for him, and yeah, he's just going to need to take it both hands. He does absolutely no no damage to that chance after rising highest. He was quite grounded by, ironically grounded, when asked about how dominant he can be at set pieces. He said that he kind of he's supposed to do that as a man with size. So fair, fair. But I mean, he has to be involved. There's really no other options until we get to January. I was surprised that maybe Ensela didn't get on at all, but it was more of a as and when the goal happened changed the sort of the substitution that was going to be made. He had his kit on. put his bib back on to go and do a warm up, and then by the time he come back from his warm up, we changed our mind. Just aligning with the way the goal was. But yeah, I have a feeling we'll see more of Manny, and certainly I expect to see Clinton Ciala at some point, at least domestically.
Yeah, I think that's fair. We did see that happen after the whistle, at least watching from my holiday home in France, which is where I was watching the game earlier today.
Yep.
We did see post match. Danny went to Clinton specifically as they were doing the walk around the pitch. Just I think to reassure him that while he didn't get his chance this time, he will get that going forward. He's going to have to. We're missing. I think what we'd probably say are our first choice centre backs right now in Suter and Big Derek. So we're down to our second choice pairing already. They are not going to be able to play every game. Certainly, it's an argument to be made that one of them shouldn't be the one who's getting picked. So there's a space there for Clinton and Ciala to come in. But yeah, let's dive into it, Andrew. We know that the lineup was obviously not exactly our perfect one. The centre backs dropping out naturally. Chamiti not starting as well. Whether that's positive or negative, I think is still up in the air as well. So we go with Danilo up top instead, playing by himself. Ant-Man on the right, Kasama on the left. Midfield of Asgard, Raskin, and Diamande, and then back four, which pretty much picks itself at this point. The four players who have already played for us this season in Nagoma, Fernandez, Giga, and Tavernier, and then Butland as the goalie. So was there anything particularly that was surprising to you about the lineup, or is it just very much, that's effectively where we are now as a squad?
I can't say I was too surprised by it, to be honest. But I would say I think these got a lot more food for thought in terms of what team we can look at for Braga. Um, I think there needs to be questions asked of the midfield as a whole. I think some players will get off lighter than others. I think Tel Asgard coming off at halftime was entirely the correct decision. I mean, we spoke about it in the chats and on shows. Tel Asgard just doesn't seem comfortable at Rangers since the move. In terms of the role he's been asked to play, it's almost as if he's just not catching the signal to go higher up the park and try and link with, in this case, Danilo or previously Chamiti or Miovski, and also not taking the cue to drop deep when required. He kind of lingers in between, and it just causes him to be an empty jersey. He to the untrained eye, it looks like he's potentially hiding, and I'm not going to say that about any football player, but it can look like that. It just looks like he isn't getting involved, and the game's just passing him by. Obviously, with him coming off at half time, I think it was the right decision. You can then flash on to Nadim Bayrami's impact in the game, which I think for someone that had so little game time under the new manager, he certainly looked lively. And I don't know if this is you can chalk that up to just comparing it to the other players around him with, I don't know, energy levels or work rate. I think you could tar a few of them with the brush of that. But Barami stepped up the pace. He looked dangerous, which is again, we hope that Nadim can be effective, a useful player. But yeah, it was just a strange one from Asgard's role. And again, the question will be asked of Danny Rule in games time, if he has continued to be given chance after chance to step up and make an impact and grab the game by the scruff of the neck, but he's continuing to fall short of that. You've seen Lyle Cameron come on, which a lot of fans have been asking for. Connor Barron came on in the second half. Both guys that are just kind of bread and butter as work rate and effort. Which again, that's one of their best qualities, and you can really see that in their game. Lyle Cameron again, when he came on, asked to go in behind a few times, the ball was looked over by Tav. Happy to make the run, even in races where he's not the faster of the two, happy to cover the ground and put pressure on. And that's just it's when you're comparing the two players, and even just in this case, it might not be exactly the same role, but just on the eye test, one looks a lot, more committed in the battle than the other.
Yeah, I did notice that as well, very much with Asgard in the first half. Danilo was the one who was dropping back more to help out that midfield and kind of force balls forward. But if he's the player who's meant to be playing as the striker, then by the time the ball does get forward, he's not in position. He's had to drop back. So he was very much playing in Asgard's role, and the fact that I think Danilo basically went into Asgard's position when Miovski came on was quite telling from the second half. But let's not get ahead of ourselves, Andrew. First half, new set piece coach has an immediate impact, and 9 minutes in, we have a corner in from Tav, which is slightly different variation in terms of the way that the ball's floated in, and an excellent header from Manny Fernandez. It's a well taken goal. Does well to get himself free of Danny Wilson to get a good run and score a fantastic header. And 9-10 minutes into the first half, you're thinking, all right, lads, let's go ahead and seize the day. But unfortunately, we failed to capitalize on that. But I think it's a good goal nonetheless that we get in that opening stage.
Definitely. It was a well worked set piece. I think, as you said, 1-for-1 at the time. I think it's never going to last, obviously, but it was one where you go, okay, early goal. I know we've had a couple early goals, I believe, recently. So you're thinking at home, no disrespect to Livingston, but you'd hope that would be a kicking on moment where you can put a couple goals by, try and strengthen your goal difference position, and it didn't end up being like that at all. And it was that time in the game from an unlikely source, that had to be said. Who again, it's as you said, the leap, the timing of the run against Danny Wilson makes the ball really well and off the underside of the bar. It's like rocket fuel at that point in time. Um, it just seemed like from that point on, we the phrase about believing our own hype, but it felt like it was kind of like, yep, we needed the goal, we got a goal. What else do you want from us?
Yeah.
But it was the preceding 10 minutes after that opening 10 minutes were a kind of a showcase of how the rest of the game was going to go.
Yes, definitely. Not even 10 minutes after that, Ant-Man's dispossessed on the right-hand side. There's a ball that goes straight down the middle, and Yengi brushes both of our centre-backs aside. Neither of our centre-backs particularly small lads, but Yengi does well, gets himself free, good first touch, and puts a brilliant ball in to make it 1-1. 3 minutes after that, Andrew, Fernandez probably gets away with one because there's a ball to hand in the box, which I've seen given against us. Obviously, the referees are looking out for Rangers. We know about this. It's been well documented how much that they have Rangers back as officials. So, yeah, we I think speaking after the game, now that it's no longer live, I would absolutely say we got away with one there. We should have had a penalty against us there. And the fact that that was the last thing that I have down in my notes for the first half is probably an indication of how sort of lacking in action items that first half was. We failed to impose ourselves on the game. We surrendered, I think, the impetus to Livingston. While we finished that half with twice as much possession as they did, we had the same number of shots on target. I think one fewer shots in general, and about the same number of shots or action like passes in their final third as well. So we did not exactly impose ourselves in the game. We did not try and rush back and bring ourselves back into that game in the first half. And certainly after that, you would be pointing at players like Asgard and Ant-Man and saying, you are not offering enough going forward to impact the game.
Well, the goal first of all for Livingston, as you said, just a ball that we've seen a few times launched by different players across different teams with a similar result. The ball just splits the two centre backs, I think, as they said, it was Yengi's first goal of the season for Livingston, which again, he's not particularly the fastest. Neither are centre backs, but he had the will to get there first. And he slots it by Jack Butland. He was quite buzzing about it in the press conference, has to be said. But yeah, you quickly follow that up with the handball shout, which I did think. I asked the question at the time, what did it come off of? I thought it's a great block, but what did they block it with? Seeing the pictures post game, if they had a look at it and they've said no penalty, the shout has got to be, they've said that's a natural movement of his arm if he is mid stride, I suppose. Because yeah, I mean, if they have looked at it, it does clearly the ball strikes his arm. The ball is going on target from Yengi. So there has to be some sort of where it does hit his arm. What is the exception? In this case, it would be a natural movement of his arm. Whether
That
that's
was the
one that
reasoning.
we'll look at, I
That
don't
was the
know.
reasoning given after the game. I believe in terms of why it wasn't given as a penalty. But to be honest, the way that we were playing, I absolutely felt that we got away with one there. Whether that's just my mood in terms of the game or anything else, I'm not a referee, so
I think you're spot on to say that. I mean, at that point in time, the kind of pressure chart would have completely flipped the other way. We took the foot off the gas, or Livingston put the foot on the gas. It's hard to tell what happened post our goal, because it just seemed like we went from being pretty dominant in that first 10 minutes to completely off, in all senses of holding the ball, distributing the ball, and creating any chances. Um, Ant-Man and Asgard, as I said, I mean, Tello, that we've spoken about. Asgard, for me, there was a lot of effort to try and contribute. He was doing his best to, he did quite well to get by his opposite number a few times. But what it ended up being was he's get by his man, get to the byline and cross it into three awaiting centre backs, Livi. And from there, you would expect some sort of change. You get a cut back. Do you then you're going to the byline, you've got to cut inside. He stuck with the same plan A, which once you continue with plan A, then it becomes a stick to beat you with. And I think that's fair. Because he did the hard bit a few times where he would skip by up to number. Some really nice, wee, close, intricate skill moves to just kind of, not the kind of Liverpool player off balance and knock him by and run onto it, which some kind of bridge skill moves, which I thought were really, really good at the time. Quick feet, but really no end product from it. So yeah, you can criticise that, I think. But yeah, as you said, there was no other key events the rest of the half.
yeah. Uh, Half time comes and Miovski's on for Asgard, as we said. Theo dropping back into that hole and Miovski taking up the striker's berth. Almost immediately has an impact. Tav throws in a great ball across. He's got a header in the box. It's just wide and over, but certainly looks encouraging. And then, our regular play settles in, unfortunately. 57 minutes, Dio's got a free header in the box. He cuts across rather than going himself. If only he had an opportunity to make it up for us later or something like that. A minute after that, something I've never seen before, which was David Martindale kicks the ball back into the pitch just to break up play. I think it's fair to say that the refs did not exactly lend themselves to a free-flowing game of football, but it was very stop-start, and it was not helped by Livy's approach to the game. But that's the dark arts, right? That's part of the game.
It was one of many strange moments. I think there was that one where obviously Martindale gets booked for kicking the ball. I think Robbie Muirhead over the other side of the park took a nice tumble and a very Graham Murphy-esque dive. And when we were ahead, the Livingston player kicks the ball away and gets booked for time wasting when he was a goal behind. I think at the time I stated that it was probably the best piece of game management I'd seen in the last 8 minutes. And ironically, it was from Livingston, not a Rangers player. Um, I think Miovski, he was doing what he usually does, which is he looks for that running behind, and we took it upon ourselves out of, I don't know, sheer lack of any other options to try it, and it ended up working. I thought at the time that Cam's ball was spot on. If at all, it could have went slightly earlier, as it was quite a tight line. I've not seen the lines drawn, but as the check did happen, it must have been pretty close, and it was obviously given as offside in the stadium. it was it just demanded being in the right place at the right time after that. And I mean, you don't get, as I said, in terms of the points, you don't get extras, but a goal was a goal. It doesn't matter if it's for 40 yards or 4 yards. Any goal to put us ahead, to give us a lead, I was taking. And yeah, it was after that long VAR check, a very, very positive result.
Yeah, absolutely. We do get that goal through the play. I won't take anything away from Miovski as well. I think his willingness to run. He had a hard shift today in terms of not exactly having a great deal of service to work from, but he gets himself into position. Livingston bench are obviously furious and think he should be not only penalised but I think strung up and killed for it as well. He was obviously murdering the keeper in the process of getting the ball over to Dio. But it's a goal which we get. On the balance, do we deserve it? Maybe. We've had more possession. We've probably done more attacking. We've not exactly done a lot, but then I'm not exactly looking back at many Rangers Livingston games and thinking, oh yeah, that was a classic. It's Livi. We know exactly how they're going to play. They are setting up to stifle us. They are setting up to frustrate. By and large, their game plan worked really well. They can feel, I think, hard done by to not, get a couple of breaks here and there. Certainly by the way that refereeing has gone earlier in the season, they might feel like they, would do one. But we, nonetheless, I think at this point, we can look at Danny Roll's first 4 league games. It's 12 points from 12. We're winning games where previously we would have drawn or indeed lost them. There are still elements of frustration, though, Andrew. And one of the things I am seeing from the chat more than anything else is just why some players are getting more opportunities and why some people are not. I think that was a game that was crying out for a player like Finlay Curtis. Even Lyle Cameron, I think, made an impact when he came on. And I think you can even say that Nedim Bayrami coming on for Ant-Man on the 64th minute as well made a difference. So we've got these players who I think can feel hard done by in that they are not getting picked for the team. But where do you go from that? We seem to still be picking some of the same old players. Is it a case of do we just use them to wear the team down and then they get the opportunity to go on when the energy levels should hopefully suit them a bit better? It's still I think a point where I have some concerns, at least from my perspective.
Yeah, I think it's pretty well documented that it's not a finished article. I think Danny's been quick to say that himself, which is again it's in agreement with the majority of the support. I mean, I would expect it to be changed ahead of Thursday. I think, especially as we were able to tell Asgard a few times so far. I think a player like Leo Cameron's done himself no harm so far in a Rangers jersey. He's worked hard and getting in amongst it, which is what we require of a young lad whose kind of main trait is his effort. I think he will be asking the question to the manager. I think his performances as well, especially when he came on to will ask the question. You know, we're kind of handcuffed in certain departments. I think Clinton and Seattle will want gameplay. They're coming off the bench. Hopefully, I was expecting them to come off the bench today. Didn't. But obviously, you've got Falkirk next. So you'd expect maybe to be some rotation. And obviously some performances have warranted there to be some rotation.
We do have the small matter of Braga in the middle of that as well, Andrew. So
Yes,
only Braga to get past prior to that. But yeah, I mean, I think more than anything else, it does show the areas of the squad where we are more bereft. Mikey Moore is going to be out, I think, at least until the turn of the season. That's another attacking option. Again, someone who looked quite promising. So we don't have a troubles to seek when it comes to this. And I think that is always going to be exacerbated by the fact that we end up chasing games far longer than we should. We never put games to bed early on, last league game aside, potentially. although you could probably argue that wasn't exactly put to bed. And then we have to run for the remaining 90 minutes. We never get ourselves into a position where we can take our foot off the gas. We always have to go full throttle. That does lead to more injuries over the course of the season. So it's a tricky one because the players we've got, I don't think anyone's holding up as world beaters, but equally we need to give them all the opportunities to get the results that they can. And so far, there's a number of players in that squad, including the one who came off at half-time, who I do not think are seizing the opportunities when they're given to them, and they've been given plenty of opportunities.
Yeah, I do think there'll be some tough conversations that need to be had with the manager and certain players. I think we're still yet to kind of have an identity in terms of attacking football. 'Cause it's tough when you go from being Trimity up front, who ends up being the kind of long ball style, to Danilo, who ends up kind of almost being a false line. It's hard to kind of nail down what your kind of archetype of how you're going to score goals will be. So you're going to continue to ask questions in terms of personnel, which is before you even see them, stats wise, who's putting the ball in the net, who's doing well over the 90. Once you've kind of nailed down how you want to make it all work, who fits in the best. I think Bojan was again, it was a game where he was able to showcase what he's good at. I think the goal comes from exactly that. His run in behind this header, as we mentioned earlier, he almost gets too much of it. So he makes a really good run to kind of fake as if he's going to the goal line before kind of stopping back up and making the cross. So I think he'll continue to have to step up and prove that he can be the leader in the attacking department. I'd like to see Nico Vaskin have an uptick in form. I think he needs to have, a word with himself. I think Dio, again, the guys who we've seen be there and do it in Europe, in the league, guys this isn't their first rodeo, kind of coasting by. I think they need to kind of get the head down and put the foot back on the gas. Because they're starting to just go through the motions. So Thursday night would have been another big challenge for them, and as we usually do, we usually tend to step up and make a showcase performance. Granted, not this term in the Europa League, as it's been quite a disastrous term. But
Indeed.
if it was a perfect time to start, it would be Thursday night.
Well, you can always hope, right? It's all about that. We know that we'll have opportunities to talk about the upcoming games in much more detail. The boys on both Monday and Wednesday will dive into that. But until then, Andrew, it has been a pleasure talking through what ultimately turned out to at least be a win. And it's been so rare. Oh, there he is. Had to sneak in at the end, didn't he?
Just had to.
Yeah. But yeah, we did manage to get the win ultimately. I think on balance we can feel happy with that. Certainly not a lot to give us hope for Thursday, so we know we need to step up for that. Andrew, thank you so much for joining us. I know it's always going to be a fun time trying to do that from the Ibrox press room, but appreciate you coming on with us, mate. Thank you so much.
I definitely know peer pressure with a room full of other esteemed members of the Rangers press room. So yes, further shit myself.
No worries at all, man. Thank you so much. Thanks to everyone who turned out for this as well. Over 1,500 of you hanging out with us, so appreciate that very much. Thank you to all of our sponsors as well. There's far more many now because Stevie, if nothing else, is very good at getting us sponsorships. So thank you to Rhino Express, Clydeview Fire Protection and Joinery, Athol Industrial Solutions Limited, CSD Air Conditioning, Candide, Dark Shop Online, in partnership with Black Rooster and our friends at Art of Gold. Thank you all so much for that. We encourage you to support them, to continue to support us, everyone who's signed up as a member. Or even if you don't want to do that, just liking and subscribing and sharing the podcast around, folks. We appreciate it so much. So thank you very much. It has been a pleasure. As always, the boys will be back with you on Monday. And in fact, the Sunday show will be back with you even before that, where I'm sure they'll break this one down in much more detail. Thank you again, Andrew. Thank you to everyone listening and watching. And until we talk to you again, folks, goodbye for now.
The Four Lads podcast is sponsored by Rhino Express, Clydeview Joinery, Athol Industrial Solutions Limited, and CSD Air Conditioning, in partnership with Black Rooster and Art of Gold. Thank you for listening to or watching the podcast. We hope you enjoyed the show.